Welcome to Search Talk Live with search engine optimization and marketing experts Robert O'Haver and Caleb McKelvin, powered by the Robert Palmer family of companies.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Search Talk Live on Election Day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's an exciting day.
Yeah, staying up late tonight?
Yeah, I am staying up late tonight. It's a tradition for me. I like to stand up. I get...
Stand up?
Stand up, yeah. Stay up. I get my beer and popcorn, and I watch the fireworks. It's a lot of fun. And, yeah, if you voted today, awesome, great. I heard the lines are long, so get out there and do your voting.
Yes.
And, yeah, it's gonna be a crazy night.
So with me is my co-host, as you already know this, Caleb McKelvin.
That's me.
Caleb?
Hey. I don't get the applause.
Oh, I was waiting for the applause.
David.
Hey,
all right. Everybody loves me. How's it going, Rob?
Good, man. Hectic week.
Yeah, it's been crazy, man.
Got some big
We always
projects.
got a lot of things going on, and we this is probably the best part of our week doing this show, man.
Oh, I look forward to it every week. Yeah. Those of you just tuning in for the first time, I want to tell you a little bit about Search Talk Live. We talk about everything. It could be social media, could be content marketing, SEO. We talk a lot of SEO because that's a big part of my background, as well as Caleb's.
Right.
I talk a lot of paid search, all that stuff. I've been doing that for a while. You name it, we cover it. I mean, if it has to do with digital marketing, we cover it, and we try to give a flavor for everybody.
Yeah.
We can't please everybody, and we are live. Sometimes we do say things that maybe misconstrued or whatever, but it's because we're live. We don't edit this stuff. It's done, and if we make a mistake, we'll admit to it. So don't worry.
Yeah, and that's the hard part of this thing, man, is we are live, but I also like it. It's very unique for podcasts and radio shows to kind of do this thing live, especially on this kind of topic, but we really appreciate it. And like I said, we have covered everything, Rob, man, but listeners out there, if we haven't covered something that you're really interested in, let us know. Go to searchtalklive.com. Drop us a line. We actually had a couple of individuals do it this past week, which were awesome topics that we're actually we're in the process of working on.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah, creating a show for it. One of those will be next week. So yeah, if we haven't covered anything, or if you have a bunch of questions, and we're like, well, why don't we just cover this topic, or can they talk about this? Let us know, and we will we'll do what we can to get a show about it.
Yeah, I'm actually excited about next week because it's just me and Caleb on the cusp.
Man.
We don't have any guests. It's just going to be me and you.
Like the old days.
Yeah, like we first started out. And we're going to be talking about how you can grow your agency or your digital marketing agency.
Yeah.
Or your business as a consultant.
Right.
We think it's a great topic, and that was a suggestion that one of our listeners gave us. So, yeah. So
awesome.
Give us your feedback and give us some suggestions.
Yeah. With that being said, we have a fantastic show today.
Oh, yeah. Something we haven't even covered
right?
yet. Yeah. So today, our guest is Casey Markee.
Markee, right? Casey Markee. He's the founder of Media Wyse. There we go. Casey, how you doing today?
Fantastic, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the show. We've covered on this show a ton of things. I mean, sometimes I wonder how we come up with another topic, but it's thanks to our guests.
Right.
Really. And today is something we haven't covered, so it's really exciting, which is digital storytelling. Storytelling to bring in more people to your site, all that good stuff.
Tell your story. Well, I mean, it's funny because every brand has a story, and it's how you take that story and how you communicate it to your audience is big.
Which makes it engaging.
And Casey's here to talk about it, and we've already talked a little bit. He's really excited about this one, and I'm anxious to hear and learn something today. So
Casey, why don't you give us a little background on yourself for people who haven't heard of you, and tell us where you came from and where you are now.
Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. Well, first, happy Election Day to everyone. I know many of you are in the on your way to a bar, or maybe you're at a bar. I know I'm going to be hitting a bar later.
Right.
Hit the polls
that's
first.
Great.
Well, maybe hit the bar first.
Telling a story through alcohol. That's my goal today after this election is over.
Right.
I'm the founder of Media Wyse, and that's a digital marketing firm based in San Diego. I'm do quite a bit of speaking. I just actually got back from PubCon Las Vegas, and I'm fortunate to be speaking at State of Search, put on by the fantastic Dallas-Fort Worth Search Engine Marketing Association, one of the oldest in the United States. Going to be doing that next week. And I'm going to be talking about kind of how to create and promote epic brand stories. So that's kind of what we're going to hopefully get through today when we can.
Yeah, we've got short time for a lot of information.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't we get started?
Fantastic, guys. So many of you I know get this a lot, is that people buy brands. They buy products, they buy services, and mostly people buy those brands, products, and services because they love stories. Mm-hmm. When people buy stories more than anything else. And so when we talk about business as a whole, it's really all storytelling. And so when people always ask us, especially whether at our agency or, I do a lot of training through searchenginenews.com, and I've trained like SEO teams on 5 different continents. And I hear this a lot. It's like people say, gosh, how do I tell a good story? Our product isn't that interesting. Our service isn't that cool. Mm-hmm. How do I tell a story that captivates the audience? And I think that's kind of a skill that a lot of digital marketers just don't get. And I think that's why that people are so interested in kind of that topic as a whole. So I'm, again, it's really cool that you guys haven't discussed it so much in the past. So then if I screw up the presentation, there's nothing to compare it to. So awesome. Fantastic way to go. And so I'm going to talk briefly today kind of about, using some examples about how, for example, storytelling with croissants. I tend to like nice, light, buttery pastries. Mm-hmm. And I certainly wish I could run more to run those off, but I do not. And one of the great examples that I used back at PubCon Las Vegas last month when we talked about storytelling was how, a lot of successful companies, work to make their customer the center of the story. They don't just provide a quality product or service. They kind of work to interweave, their product or service around the customer into a total experience. And a great example of that is a company located in Melbourne, Australia. It's called Loon. Mm-hmm. Loon, all they do is make croissants. And according to the New York Times, they make the best croissants in the world. And they're like, what? I'm in Australia. Why would I go to Australia to get the best croissant in the world? Where would you guys expect to go to get the best croissant? I would assume Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I stayed at the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas, which is as close as I'm going to get for a while. So, go over there, have that nice breakfast buffet, have those nice buttery pastries. But, it's kind of interesting because this Loon bakery that's based in Melbourne, they have just done such an exceptional job of weaving their story with an exceptional product that, the New York Times found them. It wasn't the other way around. They had gotten so much good press, over there that it made its way over to the United States. And about April, early April of this year, they were like, gosh, we're hearing a lot of stuff about this Loon place in Australia. So I'm going to go over and check it out. And Oliver Strand, who's a journalist with the New York Times, came over and did a Food Matters article over there. And he was just blown away. He says, this is the world's best croissant. And I've been all over the world. And people wonder, well, why is it the best croissant? Is it because of the croissant itself? Is it because of the experience? And that was kind of the interesting thing, because people over in Melbourne, they'll wait 45 minutes in line in a morning to get a croissant. Now, I'll tell you right now, I will not wait 45 minutes in line for anything unless it has bacon in it.
Yeah, right.
If it has bacon in it, maybe there's an alcoholic tendency to it. Yeah, that's, I might be more inclined to wait 45 minutes. But most baked goods, honestly, not so much. But they've done this in Loon. And the reason is because the whole experience over there tells a story.
Yeah.
They've really got the branding as storytelling aspect down, because when you get into Loon, it looks like a futuristic experience. They've designed a fully encompassing store that has shooting arcs of light out of the ceiling. There's a full enclosed kitchen. I mean, you can see the kitchen through glass, basically 10-foot glass walls. You can look through and see them making the pastries 24/7. And it's just an experience, and people love that. Mm-hmm. And, they hired a really good agency. They had a local design agency called A Friend of Mine. And the friend of mine came up with the fact that, well, you have a really cool story. And the story was that the owner, Kate Reed, well, she was a former rocket scientist. Mm-hmm. She actually studied aerospace engineering and spent several years working on a Formula One racing team.
Wow.
She just decided, that's awesome, but I want to be more awesome, so I'm going to learn how to bake croissants. And so she went to Paris and learned how to make croissants, and came back to Australia and opened up this Loon bakery with her brother. And they've taken that her persona of being an actual rocket scientist, and you can see that in everything that they do at Loon, from the packaging, from the lights on the side, from just everything they do. And that's what a good story does. A good story keeps people coming back, and it makes you really, really look good. And so when we talk about kind of in a world of infinite choice, it's not enough to sell a quality product or service. You really need to kind of communicate why you matter.
Yeah.
And Loon does that really well. I know you guys do that as well. I mean, hey, Search Talk Live. There is no other digital marketing podcast out there, and they don't exist.
Yeah, Rick. That's right.
Just Search Talk Live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, when we talk about storytelling, we kind of have to look at it as the glue that holds epic content and experiences together. Yeah. And Loon is a great example of how that does it.
Yeah. Well, just a question for you real quick, Casey, because I think some of our listeners might be thinking this. They said, okay, if we had a story, that would be all great. They might not think they had a story. So how can you really go to the drawing board and find, something that's really going to resonate with people and keep them coming back for more, or have them dive into your product on that level? Even if you don't think you have it, it's probably there. Do you have any kind of thing, any guidelines or tips on how you can how to find that story?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about, like a storytelling 101 for brands, I mean, one of the first things that we would want to communicate, whether it's with our own clients here at Media Wyse, or, for those of you on the call who are thinking, gosh, I'm having a hard time surfacing my own brand story. The thing that you want to understand is that there is over 100,500 digital words are consumed by the average American every day. So that's a lot of stuff that they have to take in. That's like the average person having to watch all the Twilight movies every day. And God knows we do not want to do that.
No.
Not at all. So, and we also talk about the fact that 92% of consumers want brands to create experiences that tell stories. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of what they want. They want to be entertained while they're, eating their croissant or chugging their microbrew, for example. And the thing about the storytelling is that we want to kind of expand on the visual side a little bit. Our brains process images 60 times faster than words. That's an extremely common stat. You've probably heard that a ton of times. And so the stories need to be visual. And when we talk about, how do I go about this storytelling process? There's a couple approaches that you can take. We'll call it the science of storytelling. And the best brand storytelling kind of takes a classic approach. You've got the hero conflict resolution. You probably have seen that in your basic movie. You've got the exposition where the hero is introduced, then there's the conflict, and then you've got the rising action, which is the events before the climax. And then you've got the climax where, is Casey going to eat the whole pizza in one setting? Yes, he is. But you've got the falling action after that. Are there consequences from eating the whole pizza? Is the wife going to be upset again? Yes, most likely. And then you kind of got the resolution where, the story has ended, and then the conflict has been resolved and everything. And that's an extremely basic example of storytelling. And let's talk a little bit about an example of that.
So you're basically, you're basically applying a formula to that.
Exactly. And so that's like the most basic way that you could go about finding your stories. You could use the hero conflict resolution model. And a good example of this is Dollar Shave Club. I know many of you, I asked you guys before the call began if you'd heard about Dollar Shave Club. And you probably remember that its CEO, Mike Dubbin, they initially went live with a video back in 2012 that they spent about $4,500 on this video. They uploaded it to YouTube. It went viral in a couple days. They ran out of all of their inventory in 6 days. It's pretty scary. They had it was pretty crazy. I think the video, you can find it online. There's about 23 million views on it right now. So they spent $4,500. That was it. But the video tells an amazing story. And if you haven't had a video, it's a little over a minute long. It's well worth your time. But it sets up a really cool hero. It goes in that hero conflict resolution that we're talking about. The hero is Mike. Mm-hmm. He comes on and says, "Hi, I'm Mike. I'm with Dollar Shave Club. People ask me all the time, are my blades good?" And he says, "No, my blades are effing great." And that was really interesting because it set off, explored his kind of hopes, his dreams, the worldviews, the challenges. And it's really cool if you read some of the background on Dollar Shave Club, because they were very, I don't know if we should put a profanity in this. I don't know if we should do that. And they're like, Mike's like, yeah, we want to make sure that we can, that we stand out. And it ended up being the best decision they ever made.
Right.
It was the humor was so over the top and so irrelevant and irreverent that it went viral very quickly. Mm-hmm. So you kind of that the hero. So Mike's the hero, and then you go into the conflict. And in the video, they show that the conflict that blades are too expensive and complicated. We men are not very bright. We just want to know what to use. That's not going to cost us a fortune. We don't need razor blades that, are voice activated,
right?
Or anything. We need a blade that's going to do the job, and that's it. And so that's the conflict that he sets up in his video. And then the resolution was just that, hey, we've got a superior product. They're cheap. It's $1. The party's on and you're invited, and very simple stuff like that. And so if we use like a little bit of that, the conflict, the hero, the conflict, the resolution, a lot of people can apply that very quickly to their own business and come up with some various ways that they can meet the needs of their user.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can always provide or find that conflict or that issue, especially that your audience is having. And that's a very interesting approach to be able to plug your business in that way and set yourself up as the hero and put your consumer in that story with you. That can have a huge impact. And, you're not just hitting them at a marketing level, you're hitting at a whole different level, which, they might not even realize that they're in there, but they find themselves consumed in it.
Exactly. And when we talk about, people always ask, the hardest part is kind of approaching. How do you approach that? Maybe they've taken an inventory of their brand and they realize, hey, we've got these strengths, we've got these weaknesses. How do you put that together in a brand story that's going to connect with users? And another approach to that, again, we talk about the science of storytelling, there's numerous approaches. Another approach you could take would be kind of like a 5-step brand story approach. So you take a, kind of a who, why, what, how, and where approach. So the who could be, for example, and if we use the Dollar Shave Club as an example, so the who would be, who are they targeting in that video? Well, it's users of expensive razors, which is basically all of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the why of the video was, well, we have an alternative to expensive razors, and it's effing great. So it's kind of a way for us to kind of visually connect with the story right away. And I could tell you right now that I showed this video to my mother-in-law last night, and she could not stop laughing. She had no idea. She doesn't need to use Dollar Shave Club, even though 40% of their audience is women because they like the shea butter and the other things. But she was totally floored by the fact that it was so entertaining and it clearly communicated a need that needed to be fulfilled. And then, we kind of moved from the why, the who, the why to the what, what's the message? And of course the message is again that our razors are effing great and they're cheap.
Right. Yeah.
Casey,
so Mike does a good job. Yeah.
I'm sorry. We have to take a pause for a break here for our sponsors.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Hold on one sec. Online PR is something every company should take advantage of because it creates buzz around your business. Press releases are a great way for your company to announce new product launches, company milestones, new partnerships, or even up-and-coming events. The hard part is knowing which press release distribution service to use that has an effective distribution at a price that fits your budget. Well, I have the answer. For as little as $39, PRUnderground.com guarantees your press releases to be on Google News, DigitalJournal.com, social media outlets, and an additional 50 websites and blogs. PR Underground was ranked number 2 in user satisfaction out of all the other press release sites by G2 Crowd. This is one of the tools I recommend you add to your marketing tool belt for PR, marketing, and SEO at a price any company can afford. Go to PRUnderground.com. That's PRUnderground.com and send out your next press release. Enter the code SearchTalkLive and get 20% off your first press release.
All right. Yes, check out PRUnderground.com. They are our one of our amazing sponsors. We are also sponsored by the Robert Palmer family of companies. You can go check out robertpalmercompanies.com. Check out everything they have to offer from you can find your mortgage rates to financial advice to a lot of other stuff. Great stuff. Check out robertpalmercompanies.com. And remember, listeners, you can go ask your questions on Twitter using hashtag SearchTalkLive. We have our special guest today, Mr. Casey Markee, the founder of Media Wyse. We're talking the art of storytelling, how to create and promote epic stories for your brand. So get your questions in on hashtag SearchTalkLive. I'm monitoring that currently as we speak. So get your questions in.
Awesome. And hey, I just want to interject that I am a huge fan of PR Underground. That was one of your sponsors from the last segment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Great service. We recommend them to our subscribers at searchenginenews.com, and I've used them more than once at Media Wyse. So definitely high quality sponsor there.
Nice.
Big
Very
fan.
cool. Very nice.
Okay. So just as a real recap, we're talking about the science of storytelling. There's like a 5-step brand story approach. We're using kind of Dollar Shave Club as the example. We already talked about kind of the who, the why, and the what. The who, users are expensive. The why would it be, there has to be an alternative to expensive razors. And then the what would be, our razors are effing great and cheap. And they have done a fantastic job doing that. And then we kind of moved to the how on that formula, and how did they decide to sell that message? And they made a cool video using humorous imagery that just took off like a rocket ship. I mean, it's 23 million views right now. They've made several other videos since then. All of them have had the same brand of humor and irrelevant imagery. It's great. And then the where, which is what you finish up to when we talk about the science of brand story, which is where will they share it? And of course, they decided to start on YouTube, and they've branched out from there. Now, the really cool thing about this example with Dollar Shave Club is that they never really thought about, what the results of this were going to be. They were like, it's cool. I think, we might get a couple orders here and there. It's all good. But when they got 20,000 orders in 24 hours, they pretty much almost lost their mind. They had to hire extra help. They spent the next week trying to fulfill all these orders they got in. And it wasn't long before they managed to get the venture capital needed for them to move. They basically moved from Southern California, where they started, to the Midwest, to a larger manufacturing output so they could start filling these orders in mass. And what's interesting about this story is that happened – that was July not really, actually April of 2012 when they did that video. And so here we are, little over 4 years later? Mm-hmm. So in July of this year, Unilever bought Dollar Shave Club for $1 billion.
Yeah, I did see that.
Dollar Shave Club. So it's insane. And basically Unilever had no choice. They own Gillette. They own several other brands. And Dollar Shave Club had been eating their lunch for the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, they came out of nowhere to grab a huge percentage of the market because their story was so enticing.
Yeah.
Very humorous. It fulfilled a need. Guys hate spending money on blades. I mean, for God's sakes, I feel like I have to go in with multiple credit cards and forms of ID because all those blades from Gillette are behind, they're in behind the glass case.
Right.
You got to go in with the glass case.
Ask for somebody to unlock it.
You get too close, the alarm goes off. The cage drops from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, my kids have been trapped in that cage many times. But no, it's no joke. And, they've done it. They've done a good job with that. They've kind of cornered the market on that. And so what does Unilever do? If we can't beat them, we'll buy them. And that's what they did. And so, it's just crazy, and if you haven't had a chance to check out Dollar Shave Club, one of the really cool things that they've continued to do to kind of cultivate and, a connection with their audience through storytelling is they publish this thing called Bathroom Minutes, which is hilarious. It's a little magazine, and it's designed to resemble the funny pages of a newspaper. And they're little pamphlets, and they feature like life and shaving tips. Like one of the things, there's a frequently asked questions that you never think that you would want to know the answers to, like, why fingernails grow faster than toenails. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to make you look that up because it's really interesting. But that's the kind of stuff that they tell.
Yeah, I've used them since 2013.
Yep. I'm a member as well. I am a Dollar Shave Club member as well, even with this full beard.
Yeah.
You still got to have razors for the neck and everything. No, they do an excellent job.
Exactly. Yeah. So, when we talk about, understanding your story like that, there's ways for you as a brand to kind of find your story. I mean, that's a great example, and you could certainly use a formula like that. But another thing that you could take a look at is kind of understanding what are called brand archetypes. You guys have probably heard brand archetypes, that term. It's, we're surprised at how many we know off the top of our heads, but we don't really understand what the dynamic of the archetype is. And when we talk about brand archetypes, basically it's a concept. They're like, it was originally developed by a French psychologist named Carl Jung. I know many of you probably heard of him, or you've completely forgot about him from class in college because you were hungover. No problem, no judgment. And the idea behind these brand archetypes is that they kind of anchor your brand against something iconic, something already embedded within the conscious and subconscious of humanity. Getting really deep here. So, you things like the Sage. There's a brand archetype called the Sage, and the motto of the Sage is "The truth will set you free." And some of the strategies of brands that use the Sage would be like seeking out information and self-knowledge or self-reflection. And some of these sages are mostly in the news or media world. So like BBC, Gallup, PBS, ABC, those would all be considered kind of Sage archetypes. And there's 12 of these, and I won't bore you or anyone on the call going through these. But some of the other examples are like IBM and Microsoft. They're kind of considered the ruler archetype. And in the ruler archetype, they want power over everything, because Microsoft wants to rule the world, kind of the same way with IBM. Mm-hmm. They just do it behind the scenes. And, they kind of like responsibility and thought leadership, things like that. And then you've got some of the other kind of the carefree archetypes, the creator archetypes. And the creator archetypes could be something like Lego, Sony, Disney, Crayola. And those are the archetypes there. Is their goal is to realize a vision. If they can imagine it, it can be done. Right. And so you start to understand these 12 identifiable archetypes, and you start thinking about how brands are classified into these archetypes. It kind of helps you get a more clear understanding of your own brand and the niche that you operate within. So what we kind of talk about, whether it's at Media Wyse or with search engineers with our subscribers, is we kind of get them to start thinking about the dynamic of the archetype in which they operate so that they can kind of identify and create a story that allows the person to stand out and connect with the target audience.
Yeah.
Seems complicated, but honestly, it's not. There are some various free tools online. Kay Putman, that's KAYEPUTNAM.com. They provide a really cool, like a brandality quiz. So you could take a brandality quiz, answer about, between 15 and 20 questions, and you'll be able to see very quickly where your brand or the brands of your client fit into these 12 archetype classes.
Oh, very cool.
And that provides you kind of a model that you can use to craft your brand around.
Yeah.
And what we do is when people understand their brand, they can begin to like and trust you a little bit more in the background as well.
Mm-hmm. Casey, how much should you pay attention to your competitor's story? Like, how should you even like focus on what they're doing and how they're doing it and assess their performance? And should that have any impact on what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. I think when we talk about things like reputation management and competitive analysis and competitive intelligence, we kind of want to see how they're crafting their stories. Are they taking an approach that we could maybe emulate? Are they doing something that we could improve upon? And, you could do a lot of that by kind of, if you take this brandality quiz, you can also you can also go ahead and put in your competitors in there as well, kind of see where they would play out. And then we can see, are there things that they can do that we can improve upon? Right. And then once you can see that, I think it's just like competitive intelligence, anything with anything. It's just a matter of, investing in understanding that. And that's kind of where we go when we talk about persona marketing. You guys have probably heard about persona marketing. It's something that has been around for a while. You see it at a lot of the, conference scene. Mm-hmm. People are like, I need to come up with a persona classification of my target customer. If I've got that, then I can, follow them all around the internet. I can target them with Facebook ads, and I can do retargeting, remarketing as it's called, with a pixel. If they go offline, I can follow them in stores. And that's really where that persona marketing comes into play. And, there's lots of tools out there that kind of allow you as a storyteller to kind of define your persona. There's a great site called makemypersona.com. I believe it's put off my HubSpot. That's makemypersona.com. And you can enter 17 simple questions, and it'll generate like a buyer persona very quickly into a Word doc. It's very simplistic, but for those of you who don't know much about persona marketing, it's a way for you to kind of jump in with both feet and get going. There's also a tool from Extensio, XTENSIO.com, Extensio. Mm-hmm. And that allows you also to kind of put together a persona based upon various attributes that you might have defined previously through, identifying one of these archetypes, or maybe you've quizzed your audience or done, there's these things called, you could do a story inventory of your own marketing materials. Maybe you have some specific characteristics that set you apart from someone else. You know, do you have a, naked Margarita Wednesdays? Hey, no judgments, but maybe that's a story.
That'll resonate with somebody.
It's definitely a story to tell.
And, many of you might know Mike King of iPullRank. Mike's a very well-known digital marketer. Yep. He probably has one of the most famous examples of, guides on persona marketing. And you could find that on, Moz. He had a great resource on that back in 2014. That's as relevant now as it was when he published it. And it's all about the science and the art of understanding the person behind the visit, which is really what persona marketing is, so that we can kind of define who we want to target with our stories. Mm-hmm. So definitely worth your time.
Yeah. Casey, this is kind of a question. How much should you be investing in not only developing your story, but promoting your story? How much should this be a big part of what you're trying to do, along with everything you got? Should you be pushing your story and adjusting it accordingly? And should it be a main focus of how you're reaching your audience and how you're kind of acquiring new clients as well?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. I don't think that, even the best stories can sometimes just die on the vine. We can't all be Dollar Shave Club. It could have happened. Maybe they released their story to YouTube on a day that there would have been, for example, if we think about the Boston Marathon bombing, imagine if Dollar Shave Club had released their awesome video on the day of a national tragedy. Right. Probably would not have gone viral. They probably would not have signed up 22,000 people in 48 hours, and they probably would not have just been bought out for $1 billion by Unilever. It's all about, timing, marketing, finding the right way to artificially jumpstart your story. So I absolutely believe that's very important. And when we talk about that, I think there's various ways that you can go about giving your story a jump, because without the audience, the story really means nothing. So we need to find a way as a brand storyteller to kind of jumpstart the story whenever possible. And there are some pretty simple ways to do that. You already mentioned, one of the sponsors that you just talked about was PR Underground. I would certainly consider, if I had a good story, I would make sure I'm crafting that into an effective press release. Mm-hmm. That's certainly one of the things I would be doing. But I would also be using editorial resources like SourceBottle and Muckrack and Haro, help a reporter out. Yeah. Or in your case, radioguestlist.com. Radioguestlist.com is an option where, maybe there's someone looking for a guest to fill their morning show or to fill their podcast. Mm-hmm. And maybe your topic fits into their needs at that specific moment. So I'm going to try to give my story a push. And when we talk about giving a story a push in PR, that's really what we're doing, is we're trying to reach out and present our story to a qualified audience as fast and as wide as possible. Yeah.
Now, does your type of audience or, buyer persona, is that going to kind of dictate how you're going to deliver your story? What type of medium you're going to use, whether it is pushing it out on YouTube or whether it is using specific types of content? Do you really have to understand your audience to know how you're going to deliver that story to them?
Yeah, exactly. Because if you go back to the Dollar Shave Club example, the YouTube media makes perfect sense for them because they're very visual. Yeah. If they come up with a great story that tells you and communicates very visually with humor and irreverence that, hey, your blades are too expensive, you guys can do better, then you definitely want to do that. Now, they could have taken that story and tried to push it on LinkedIn, and it wouldn't have been nearly as successful. Yeah. Right. So it's one of those things where we definitely want to connect with the right platform. And I think if you do, a sound inventory of what you're needing, and then you've defined your persona and you've made a little list of, what your target customer is, well, then we can seek out and find out where they're going to be. When we think about buyer audiences, whether it's millennials or Gen X or Gen Y, all of them are appropriate to various platforms. It's amazing how many millennials use Pinterest, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. I didn't really think about that much, but that's something that you might want to do. Maybe you have something visual. I would want to make sure that I pull Pinterest into that specifically. And maybe we've got Gen X or Gen Y, which really still use Facebook a ton. I'm going to be running some Facebook ads. I'm going to be doing some targeting whenever possible. And maybe I'll use a video. Maybe I'll upload it to Facebook video, or maybe I'll do, something that's visual and just start running ads targeting a specific profile that I've set up previously. But, a lot of when we talk about pushing a story out, a lot of that is really about connecting with influencers.
Yeah.
We want to find who the influencers are that operate within our niche because they're all different.
Yeah.
And so I tend to use various tools to do that. I'll use a tool like BuzzSumo. You probably are familiar with Sumo, very popular tool. I can find key influencers via keyword, or I can look and see, our story is very similar to this story and this shared piece of content. I'm going to go ahead and pull everyone who shared that piece of content, and then I'm going to make a target audience based on those identified sharers, so to speak. And, you can do that variously. And then if you're in a more enterprise level, you might want to consider something of an enterprise tool like Little Bird. Have you guys ever heard of Little Bird? It's pretty awesome.
I have not.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
So Little Bird it identifies influencers by what other influencers are connected to them. So it doesn't go after the really big influencers. It goes after the little fish. It's really interesting. And so you can find that. They're on Twitter at @GetLittleBird. And they operate with a model called contextual segmentation. So it's a little bit different than demographic or psychographic targeting. So they're looking for people who have specifically sought out connections that are related to their focal area or product. So it tends to be a little bit more successful. It's pretty cool. I've only started using them over the last several months. Really like what I'm seeing. I recommend it all the time now. Mm-hmm. And again, it just works by identifying influencers by what other influencers are connected to them.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
And then it'll kind of find the relevant, credible Twitter influencers. It's so funny whenever we talk about Twitter. Do we really want to say relevant and credible for Twitter? Because Twitter is really, has Twitter jumped the shark? I would probably argue that Twitter jumped the shark a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, or even longer than that. But a lot of people still take a Twitter first approach when they're searching for influencers. And, can't really argue with that. I mean, I'd like to say that other platforms have supplanted it or replaced it, but that hasn't been the case, even though about 60% of everything on Twitter is run by bots.
Yeah, but Casey, and I found that too, because I do a lot of research when I get guests for this show. A majority of the people that have, 1 million plus in our industry followers, majority of them are fake.
No doubt about it. I think I have about 3,100 Twitter followers, and they're all cultivated. I mean, they're all actual people like you guys, or they're people within our industries, or they're clients, or they're, other people we've met at conferences. And so, you can use a silly influencer metric like Clout or some of the other ones like Clear, and it'll show that I'm an incredibly powerful influencer when I only have 3,100 followers. And that's because they're actually real followers.
Right. Engaging.
Who will and hopefully engage with me on. But basically, I need to tweet about bacon and beer and add TV about every 2 or 3 times a day to really keep that engagement up.
There you go.
Very nice. Well, if you're just tuning in, we are joined by our special guest today, Casey Markee, the founder of Media Wyse. We're talking about an awesome topic today: the art of storytelling, how to create it, promote it for your brand. A lot of great stuff. You can get your questions in using hashtag #SearchTalkLive on Twitter. I advise you go and do that. Get your questions in. We'll be asking Casey or Robert or myself if they're for us. Or you can use email, Caleb at @SearchTalkLive, Robert at @SearchTalkLive. Get on and do that. And we are sponsored by the Robert Palmer family of companies. Now, Casey, some people might be out there saying, well, I tried to tell my story, but it just completely flopped. And they want to go back to the drawing board. Where should they start?
Well, that's a good question. I think the answer to that is it depends. That's a very common answer in the SEO sphere. We'll get that a ton. You can just call me Matt Cutts or Gary Isles because that's probably their most popular answer.
Right. Yep.
It depends. And so when we talk about if your story hasn't taken off, well, we want to, break it down into steps. Was it really an interesting story? Is this something that people would really like to visit? And I'll give you an example of a failed example. We at Search Engine News a couple years ago, it's been a while ago, we were launching a resource for influencers. And so we thought we're gonna invest money in making a video, kind of like the Dollar Shave Club, but this was pre-Dollar Shave Club, like 2 years before Dollar Shave Club. And it had a cowboy, and he was lassoing. He was on a ranch, and he was lassoing spammers and doing a couple other things. And we thought, God, this is really interesting. I couldn't even show you where the video is now. I have no idea. That's how bad it was. But it was launched, and we thought, God, this is going to be cool. This is great. And so we launched it on YouTube. We reached out to a couple influencers. Totally died on the vine. And again, it's just because we didn't beta test it enough. If we had done that, we probably would have realized that, the message, it was probably a little bit too long. The message wasn't as clear as it should be. You have to kind of make sure that you're using your own study groups, whether it's, you can use tools like Visual Website Optimizer. I like hotjar.com. Hotjar is pretty cool. Hotjar allows you to do a lot of beta tests, whether it's on your website or content or whatever. And I can focus on mobile specifically, which is where the majority of viral action is going to happen these days, is mobile. I could use something like usertesting.com. Fantastic site, fantastic tools to kind of see, does my story have merit? Maybe I can use a focus group. There's plenty of free focus group tools, none of which I can remember right now. So you guys could, maybe we can share some of those in the comments later. But yeah, I would do all that stuff. And, kind of back to the influencer connection too, because this is something I definitely want to make sure I hit. When we talk about influencers, you're going to be reaching out to those influencers via email most of the time. And so one of the questions we always get is, well, Casey, I've identified these influencers, but I have no idea how to contact them. And one of the ways to do that is with a tool called Hunter, Hunter, and that's hunter.io. And you could use hunter.io to contact anyone pretty much on any site. What it does, it'll crawl through data, whether it's on the site or available other resources, and it'll pull out identified emails that you can use to target accordingly. And so I tend to use that a lot. You can a free account gets you about 150 requests a month, and then you can export all that by CSV. Or you can upgrade for like $49 a month and get 1,000 requests, and that's usually more than enough for the average brand.
Yeah.
So it's just something to think about. And then you guys are probably familiar with Boomerang.
Oh, yeah.
So Boomerang, if those of you on the call use Gmail like basically all of us do, I use Boomerang quite a bit. And when you have Boomerang for email, it'll allow you to kind of send out and see how successful your messages have been. Were they read? Were they delivered? Maybe I can resend them. Gotta use Boomerang. So I use that to track a ton of stuff so that I can see if my influencers are actually reading my initial pitch, so to speak.
Yeah. Nice. Well, how do you interact with these influencers? Because a lot of people say, okay, I got my list. I want to reach out to them. How should I interact with them? Should I be asking them to do something? Should I just be introducing something? What's going to get the best response, especially if you've had I like to always reach out to people I've had previous interactions with. Kind of cold emailing is, I don't know if it's going to get the best response, but that's something you're going to have to do. How should you interact with them?
And that is a very good question. And so I know you guys are probably in the same boat that I and others are in, is that you get a lot of these cold outreach examples.
Yeah.
Someone will have heard you on the radio. Someone will have seen you at a conference.
Yeah.
Someone will have read something you've written, and they'll send you a cold outreach example. And if the very first thing in that email, again, we get a lot of email. I don't know about you guys, but I get a ridiculous amount of email, and it's not all, porn and spam. It's not all Viagra ads and spam, but a lot of it is actual people who want me to reply.
Yeah.
And so I only have a couple seconds per email. And so I'm looking at that, and they need to make a connection. They need to try to say, okay, well, hey, Casey, I saw you here and here. I really enjoyed this takeaway. Had a question on this. By the way, I thought you might benefit from this. If they can show that they've done a little bit of research. For example, I was born and raised in the great flat state of Kansas. So if someone was to actually go out and find that information and say, hey, I know you're following KU Jayhawk basketball, Rock Chalk, and they give me some information on that in the email, I'm gonna spend the time to read the email.
Right.
Various little things like that, trying to personalize the email a little bit. That's a good outreach example. A bad outreach example would be, something like I don't know if I can even find an example here, but let me see. It's like someone saying that I'm an avid reader of your website, and just typing URL. maybe they're using a mail merge program and they just typed URL in the email, and that I believe I can add valuable viewers for a few different and amazing topics. Something like that. It's not going to resonate really well,
right?
As you two gentlemen know from personal experience, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
So we want to try to personalize that as much as possible, because when we talk about storytelling, it's not just you getting your story out; it's you telling a good story when you're doing the initial outreach. Making sure that you provide some kind of a benefit that would encourage me to take time out of my extremely limited but valuable schedule to give you the couple minutes of consideration.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're on the show. You've given a lot of great tools and,
absolutely,
valuable information here. I mean, we got what? How much we got time? We got 20, no.
About 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
Absolutely. Great. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so really that's really what it comes down to. I mean, we wish that we could all be epic. We're not Chris Brogan or, I know if you guys know Scott Stratton pretty well.
Yeah.
PubCon keynoter Scott Stratton, he always puts on a great show. We saw him at PubCon Las Vegas this last month. They're successful. They didn't get successful because everything they created was epic.
Yeah.
They were successful, and they still are, because they tell a really good story that is fully infused with their personalities, and they keep telling good stories, and then they just kick the shit out of promoting it.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. So we have to learn. We can say that all we want, but I think that if we take some of these tools, whatever we covered today, or if you guys are fortunate, or if anyone on the call is going to be at State of Search next week, definitely come up and say hi. The presentation I'm going to put together is going to be killer. But we want you to start thinking about, what are your strengths? How can I craft a story that people are going to find interesting? Mm-hmm. Use your family as a guide. If your family, I'm going to tell you right now, my 14-year-old and my 12-year-old are the best focus group I'm ever going to have, because they are very quick to tell daddy that he sucks.
Right. Brutally honest.
Brutally honest that daddy, your idea is terrible.
Yeah.
Excuse me while I go back to watching YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So, little things like that.
Right.
Focal group.
Right. So, Casey, kind of one of the things I did want to touch on is, everything we do, we kind of not only set expectations, but we set goals. And so when you're creating this story, when you're kind of creating this whole kind of campaign, what kind of goals should you be setting? Are there specific goals that are only set for storytelling and building that story and promoting that story? Is there only certain expectations that you should have in mind, or are there specific ones that you can set that are, specific for your business and relevant for your business?
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head. Is you want to reach your goals through the power of storytelling, but you're going to have to define what those goals are. Are the goals for you to create brand visibility, which was a great example of what Dollar Shave Club did. I'm sure they had no idea that they would generate 12 to 20,000 orders in a span of 72 hours.
Yep.
Their goal was just to get their brand identity out there, because they were completely new. They wanted to get the word out, so to speak. So, define what it is you're looking to do. Are you looking for brand visibility? Are you looking to drive bottom line goals? Maybe your goal is to drive, a Facebook or a social audience. Maybe your goal is to push a product or service. Once you define those goals, I think it's going to determine not only what the message is, but it's also going to determine what channels are going to be. Clearly, if I'm selling a specific product, maybe I'm not going to be, for example, maybe I'm business to business and I'm not business to consumer. Well, if I'm business to business, maybe LinkedIn is a place that I want to concentrate on.
Right.
If I'm business to consumer, then clearly I'm gonna do Facebook immediately.
Yeah.
Because that's where everyone is. Everyone gives Facebook all this hard time, but when we talk about they're using this Atlas ad system, which has just incredible targeting potential.
Yeah.
I'm going to be using that first, because the amount of finite demographic targeting I can use there will just blow your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At a pretty low cost too.
Yeah. Pennies on the dollar. Definitely.
Right. Right. Now I got to ask Casey, we've been sitting here talking about Dollar Shave Club. Have you seen the YouTube ad for Squatty Potty?
I have. And there is some science behind it, but I just can't bring myself to do it. Can't do it. I can't do it. I'm just totally going to be fine
without it.
Right. I thought that video and they're kind of bringing brand awareness to it was pretty entertaining. It was an interesting way to approach it, and especially such a crazy topic. I think they did a pretty good job of marketing that.
Shock and awe.
Yeah, a little shock and awe.
Yeah, didn't they get on? I think they got on Shark Tank.
Yeah, they were on Shark Tank. They were, and once they got bought, they had that video. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, did they get the video? Did they get on Shark Tank before the video, or was the video the impetus to get them on Shark Tank?
I think it was after.
Yeah, it was post.
They had, and then one of the sharks had, of course, invested in their company, and I guess this is how they built their brand awareness, which I thought was pretty effective.
Oh, definitely. Not for me, but definitely effective.
Do you have one, Caleb?
I mean, I do have a squatty potty. So, they're not one of our sponsors or anything, but, cool video. That's all I'll say.
Did you at least upgrade to the one in bamboo, or do you just use the white knockoff?
No, we don't have the bamboo. No, don't have the bamboo. We still just got the white knockoff. So it's all good. But,
it didn't take long for the imitators to come around. I was actually at Target the other day, and they have one from a company called Manhattan. And it's called, they were advertising it as the, quote, slim toilet. So check it out, the slim toilet. And it was in wood. I don't know if it's bamboo. I don't think they upgraded to bamboo.
Yeah.
But it's called the slim toilet. And I'm like, holy crap, that's a squatty potty.
Yeah, right.
There's a pun there. No, holy crap.
So instead of spending $80 for the squatty potty, you can go to Target and spend, $40 or $50 or whatever it is for this Manhattan slim toilet.
Slim toilet. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Those Shark Tank people, their advertising methods are pretty funny. I saw one the other day. Who's the guy with the bald head? Is that Mr. Incredible? Is that what they call him? Yeah. He's got a video now of his head popping out of a toilet. It's a light you put on your... Yeah, God. It's pretty bad, but very interesting. Kind of crazy. But I guess that'll build some kind of shock and awe brand awareness right there.
Speaking of that, did you watch we were on the topic of Shark Tank, did you see the one on Sindaver?
I haven't seen that one.
So apparently the deal actually fell apart, but they were selling they had reached a $3 million Shark Tank deal to make human cadavers.
What? Oh, yeah.
Synthetic human cadavers. That was one of the big things. You guys should look that up. It's pretty interesting. I guess the deal fell apart.
Yeah, now that you mention that, I've seen that one. They're very realistic for students to work on.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess he got Robert to sign up for like a 25% stake, but and it's really an interesting idea. They make the synthetic human cadavers. They're like $105,000 or something like that. The U.S. Army uses them to train paramedics. It's really an interesting idea, but I guess the deal fell apart after the show when Robert realized that there were strings attached. You'd have to, I guess the CEO at the time would have to step down. He wasn't told of this, and he was like, I'm not stepping down as CEO of my company. And totally understand that.
Right. Yeah.
So he decided not to do it. They didn't move forward with it. But yeah, Shark Tank is definitely good entertainment. Certainly not an option for all businesses. You gotta make the decision. If it's your brand and you did a good job building it, there's no reason you should have to step aside at just the right time when you're getting ready to take it to the next level. But that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Casey, we kind of got a few minutes left here. Is there anything you wanted to add or kind of wrap up with our audience on the topic?
Yeah, all I would say is that when we talk about storytelling, the most important thing is to understand, why do brands want to invest in you? And the reason, bottom line for that, is that you tell a good story, and the best brands, they create kind of a full visionary experience with their stories. And if you can figure out how, study successful companies, study companies like Dollar Shave Club, study companies like Loon, the Loon based in Melbourne, see how they're able to put together and cultivate these experiences which pull in the customer. It's a full immersive experiences. And when you're able to do that, the world's the limit, from your packaging to the experience itself to the final product. If you can do that, the results are limitless, honestly.
Yes, absolutely, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very.
This might be one of my favorite topics recently. This is awesome.
Yeah,
check is in the mail, guys. I really appreciate it.
Very good. Now you got some speaking engagements coming up. Is that correct?
I do. I'm fortunate. I'm going to be speaking at State of Search in Dallas next week. I'm actually on Monday, and then I can get that out of the way early so that I can partake in as much beef brisket as possible.
Oh yeah,
nice.
If get the brisket, the pork brisket, get the beef ribs, done. That's it. I've already got larger pants, and I'm already kind of taking it easy this week on the diet so that I can be okay next week when I
like it. I like it.
And you're gonna hit up the buffets and stuff.
Yeah, I think we're going to do I tell you, that's always the worst thing about Vegas is, you can't help yourself, especially with PubCon. You're there a whole week, and, oh, goodness. I had a lot of CrossFit workouts the last couple of weeks just to work off that.
Right. If our audience wants to get in touch with you, kind of how can they do that? Social media, email, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me online on Twitter. It's at Media Wyse, and that's MEDIA, Y as in yellow, SE, Media Wyse. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Casey Markee. Always happy to connect there with both you guys personally and anyone else on the show. And, of course, you can find me through my website, MediaWyse.com.
Thank you.
I like it.
Yeah, we'd like to have you back sometime if you have another topic. I mean, this is
beacons. We'll talk about beacons. Yeah, Bluetooth beacons.
Yeah.
You guys have probably heard about that. Local geo-marketing with Bluetooth beacons.
Oh, yes, I have.
Yep.
Yeah, I tell you, that's a great topic. I
think it's underrated.
Definitely. Yes, Yext. You guys probably talked about Yext previously on your phone. They had a great beacon product, but they kind of had to close it off because they were charging for most of the stuff that you can get for free now with Facebook and Yelp. So that'll hurt you.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks for being on the show. We'll have you back hopefully sometime next year.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys. It's a pleasure. Have a great upcoming Thanksgiving and holiday season, and be safe tonight during Election Day. Could be mobs. Could be a meteor strike. Could be something.
Right.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Casey.
Those of you listening to the show, I want to thank you very much for your support. And go to our website. If you are listening to us on Spreaker, please hit that like button.
Yeah.
I want to share the likes or even follow us on Spreaker.
Man, the numbers on Spreaker have been crazy.
Nuts, man. I'm loving it.
But, you shoot me a screenshot all the time. Dude, check this out. Yeah. It's awesome, man. We really appreciate all of our listeners. You have made this experience very amazing. Yeah. Like we say all the time, we started this out as a little experiment, and you guys have made it awesome that we just want to continue it.
There's our brand story.
It's been growing. There's our brand story. We got it. If you did miss any part of today's show with our special guest, Casey Markee, the founder of Media Wyse, if you missed any part of today's show, you can go to searchtalklive.com. After we're off the air, it'll be up on our previous show's page. We also tweet it out, share it on Facebook. It's on Spreaker. It's on iTunes. And, of course, if you just love us so much, want to listen to us 24 hours out of the day, go to iHeart, man. Check us out. And, just have it on.
Yeah, I mean, go to our website, sign up for the newsletter, because we send out up-and-coming shows and posts, and Caleb's been putting together some really cool things on local search and all that good stuff.
Yeah, looking on getting some more, as we can invest more into what we got going on, into Search Talk Live, and we're going to have to because we're just getting such a great response from it. We really want to keep growing the show as we close out 2016. Yeah. I can't believe we're going to be in 2017 very soon. It's crazy. So it's been awesome. We're about to close out another year, and we're going to try to grow this thing as much as we can.
Yeah, we've only got about, 3 or 4 more shows left for the year.
Yeah, till the holiday seasons.
Tomorrow we're going to wake up with a new president.
Right?
Scary.
Right? It's going to be fun tonight, man. I'm just going to have at it.
Yeah. Throw up some popcorn, whatever.
Popcorn?
Yeah.
Yep.
So catch us next week, guys. Like I said, me and Caleb are doing it solo. Well, I guess that's not really solo. Duo.
No, duo.
Digital duo.
Digital duo.
And we're going to talk how to grow your agency. From how to prospect, how to get maybe some new clients, and how to keep the ones you have. Yeah,
it's a great topic because it's not easy, man, especially if you're just getting started out, you're a small agency, even if you're doing some freelance work, whatever it may be, we want to help you and kind of talk about even struggles that we've had in the past and how we overcame those.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention too, our sponsor, please go check out prunderground.com. Right. If you put in the code Search Talk Live, all one word, it will give you 20% off on your first press release. It's only $39,
right?
And you get a ton of value for that. I mean, it's not just like your daily press release place. It's a great place to go.
Right. Tell your story. Share your story.
Exactly, your brand story.
Right.
And get your guaranteed to be on Google News.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Reach a lot of people. Tell your story. Amplify your content. It's a great resource.
Yeah. Talk to you guys next week. Thanks again. Come back next Tuesday, 3:30, 4:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Yep.
We're going to be jumping on the digital train again.
Yeah, buddy. We appreciate everybody listening. Y'all have a fantastic rest of the week.
Bye-bye.
Search Talk Live is a presentation of the Robert Palmer family of companies.